were talking about all of the key attributes of being a heart leader, and we talked about whether or not there would be a flow on how we would bring these forward. We were like, there kind of has to be, because they're building blocks. And in order to really fully embrace one, there are some that have to kind of set the foundation. Mm-hmm. And authenticity was one that's kind of a foundational step for really getting into vulnerability.
Yes.
And it kind of, in a way, you'd say, well, why is that? Why do I have to be in touch with my authentic self in order to be vulnerable? What would you have to say to that? Why? Why do we have to be in touch with our authentic self in order to be vulnerable?
It's a great question.
I hope so.
It's one where at first the idea of authenticity and vulnerability, it's kind of like a chicken or the egg in a way, right? But the reason why we ended up using authenticity first and vulnerability second in that step, in that flow, was because how can we really be vulnerable if we don't know who we are? Otherwise, we're creating a facade or an idea of what vulnerability is. So to a degree, are we being vulnerable, or can we be vulnerable if we don't know ourselves? Sure, but we're putting limits. And so we can't truly understand the actual vulnerability of who we are, why we are, or the depth of that vulnerability until we fully understand ourselves. That's the connection point.
And ultimately, when we talk about vulnerability, at least for me, there are defined definitions of what vulnerability is, obviously. But to me, when I hear the word vulnerability, what it brings up for me is that I am, as you said, being my full authentic self, at least the way that I know myself authentically right now, in my personal life, in my professional life, in my social life. I am showing up, and I am not fearing that people are going to see me for me. So I don't need to protect myself. I don't need to fear that someone is going to hurt me for being myself or for embracing what makes me the unique aspect of the soul that I am. And so there is no longer this need for protection in society or in my life. That doesn't mean I'm not cautious,
right?
Because there's always a need to be mindful and cautious. But this whole need to protect ourselves, to always be on the attack, to always feel like we're fighting something, like that fight or flight is constantly kicked in. Instead, I can fully love myself, and that opens me up to fully love others. And that's in every aspect of my life. It isn't just in my personal life. It's in my professional life. Because the moment our team knows that we truly care about them, then they truly care about us. And it creates this strong foundation for a team that will always be there, even if they move on to other careers, even if they move on to other things, they're always coming back. And that starts from authenticity, because I know myself, and then I consistently show love from that authentic place.